Greetings, everyone. I'm excited to welcome Mark Walker, co-founder at Revved Up. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ben. Delighted to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no, great to have you here. Let's dive right in. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I'm a former chief revenue officer. I've been in commercial teams my whole career. So I started not in the tech industry. I actually started in a much more analog industry in the events conferences space. Kind of cut my teeth there, um, selling sponsorships, coordinating events and so on. Kind of rose through the ranks pretty quickly and then got this real bug that I wanted to be in the tech space, right? That's where all the innovation was happening and it was just super exciting. So I took a pay cut and I moved over to Event where I eventually became their head of growth. And that was my first introduction into tech. A wonderful business, really incredible experience, great culture, great product. And so I was there for 3 years as their head, eventually became their head of growth for the UK and Ireland. And then I took this step into like really early stage startup world, which was a bit of a gamble. And I joined a pre-revenue business called The Test, who had just raised, I think it was their pre-seed, but they'd just raised some venture capital, and they were looking for someone to actually kickstart their marketing. They didn't believe, interestingly enough, at the time in sales, so they had no salespeople. And yeah, it was an amazing journey over 3 years. I eventually took over the whole go-to-market team there, so I became their chief revenue officer. We grew from 0 to 5 million really quickly. Helped build every go-to-market team from scratch, so from the sales team, the marketing team, the SDRs, and so on, which is wonderful. And then I joined a later stage business called Student Beans, helped them grow from sort of 10 million to just over double that over a couple of years there. And they were a bootstrap business as their CRO. And then for a couple of years, I was a fractional CRO doing consulting and supporting other founders in their scaling journeys as well.
I love that. Love the background history. And yeah, from events into then Eventbrite. So where did the Revved Up idea kind of come up in this journey?
Yeah, so Revved Up is definitely like a baby of my experience, right? So it's kind of me scratching an itch that I've had for a long time. And when I was building go-to-market teams, I'd always build them on this idea of we have to have like good value exchange with the prospects who we're trying to reach out. Right? We have to educate them. We have to provide value. There's an interesting stat which you may have come across before, which is really only 3 to 5% of buyers are ever in market at any given time, which means the vast majority of your market are simply not ready to buy your solution. One of the reasons is that most of them are not problem aware, right? They don't even know they have an issue that you could help them solve. So one of the things that I've always kind of built my go-to-market teams around is educating the market, producing really relevant, valuable, insightful content, and then making sure that all of our interactions are based on insight, deep research, high degrees of relevance, and so on. And what I've found is that you'll often find one or two really capable individuals in any go-to-market team who are just innately good at that, right? They create resonant content that just connects with with their buyers. It creates credibility, trust, and so on. But as you try and scale that across more people, the quality drops off, right? And you get this lots of variance. So as I tried to scale this across my teams, I found that it was a real struggle, right? I put in processes, I put in training, but fundamentally it was very, very difficult to get that consistency. And so with the advent of AI, I was like, oh, I think we could do something here where we apply this philosophy of go to market and essentially move that bell curve to the right for all of our prospects and all of our sales team to produce really relevant, valuable content that helps educate the market and builds credibility.
Perfect. So that's perfect time. Yeah. Tell us, yeah, what products and or services Revved Up offers.
Yeah, sure. So what Revved Up is doing is it's trying to scale what I think is an account-based marketing approach. So I always have to be careful because we're not specifically an ABM platform like Six Sense might be, but we want to take that approach of ABM, which is really deep research and insights, really bespoke content and relevance, and then multiple touch points in order to reach the right prospects, the right account. So we take those fundamental principles of ABM and we're helping teams to scale them across all of their total addressable market in order to make all of their prospects more problem aware. Right. That's the essence of what our product does. In a more tactical sense, what we do is we help with the scalable research and insights into every prospect and account. We then connect that to the most relevant value proposition, educational materials, and so on of our clients. And then we use that relevance match to then go and create really great, insightful content, which is distributed via email, via landing pages, digital assets, LinkedIn, even helping SDRs have the right call scripts for when they're speaking to prospects.
And so would this be going to my existing customer base or both new and existing?
So it's actually predominantly for new.
Okay.
We do have an increasing number of clients thinking they'd quite like to use it for existing, but our primary use case right now for our client base is to help them bring in net new pipeline.
Okay, so predominantly new, maybe some use case for existing and reaching the right prospects at the right time. And so this, when your tool is deployed, your software is deployed, so it's going to that new business team, the SDRs, the new business reps. So is it just thinking of the sales team, maybe of new existing, but just that new team has your product deployed?
Yeah,
Yep.
predominantly the new team. Yeah. What we find is our buyer is typically, interestingly, the marketing team, right? Marketing teams are increasingly on the hook for driving qualified pipeline, and more SDR teams report into marketing. But absolutely, the end recipients or benefits of this are frequently the SDR team who get really well researched content that, a lot of the manual tasks taken off their hands and they can engage in the more human aspects of building pipeline.
Yeah, so interesting. So the marketing team, vested interest in this process. So really, this is like a daily tool in the hands of the SDRs then.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then you said that the buyer persona here, are you reaching out to the CRO, the VP of sales, and or say that VP of marketing, or just all the above?
So we always have sales and marketing in the call or in the buying cycle because partly because they're both stakeholders in this process and also because I really believe in the alignment of those two functions, right? One of the worst go-to-market principles is when sales and marketing are not aligned and they're actually at odds with each other, right? So it's really important that they're both bought into the process and that we're working together and our product helps with that because we scale this ABM approach that gives marketing a really high degree of control over what campaigns look like, what the messaging is, what goes out to their market. But ultimately, the benefits accrue to the sales team, right? In many respects, because it's helping the SDRs win net new meetings, which goes into the AEs, and the AEs have a ton of research and insights then at their fingertips for when they're doing discovery calls. So we absolutely sell to both buyers, but we tend to find our initial champion in a deal is marketing, and then we bring in sales as a critical stakeholder.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So what industries are you targeting? I know B2B SaaS employs this type of go-to-market motion, but where are you finding that product market fit?
Yeah, so we've got two main client bases. The majority is in B2B tech and SaaS. That is my background. So I've got a lot of warm connections and network there. And also they have a huge need, right? They have to drive pipeline efficiently. You're probably very aware of this, the switch from growth at all costs to growth with efficiency. So they're looking to apply AI and tooling to help them achieve that. And what we find our best fit customers have a pretty large total addressable market, but a reasonably large deal size and complexity where they have to have a lot of research and insight to personalize their deals, but they don't have all the time to do that effectively. So our tools are really great fit there. A second use case, which is quite interesting that's emerging, is working with agencies where they offer services like outsourced software development, creative agencies, design, even talent, and so on, where their their go-to-market is key to their own differentiation because the services they offer, although of course they'd be best in class for our clients, is quite hard to differentiate those types of services. So they're using tools like Revved Up to stand out in their go-to-market with the level of personalization that they can offer to their clients.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then let's talk some stats and figures. So what year did you found Revved Up?
So I met my co-founder in the summer of last year, so not very long ago, like June of 2023. We first launched a very rudimentary beta of the product in September just to get it into people's hands. First paying customer was the end of 2023. We launched commercially in March of this year. And so, you know, depending on which point you take it, we officially formed the legal entity in January of this year.
Okay. Okay. So still, yeah. So still early on, but sounds like so paying customers. So that's great. And then where do you
Yeah.
have a headquarters location? Or are you virtual?
We are officially located headquarters wise in the UK, in London,
Okay.
but we are very much distributed as a team. My co-founder actually lives in Bali. So we have several thousand miles and 7 hours time difference between us. And therefore we decided it was going to be appropriate to build a remote team.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. And then in current team size?
We are 8 at the moment, and we are out to market to grow that team right now. So by the end of the year, we'll probably be around 11.
11 by end of year. Perfect. And then anything you want to share around AR ranges or revenue ranges?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I I know not to be super specific here, but we are the kind of lower six figures ARR at this point, but growing very rapidly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Just starting out, just like what GA this year. So now this would be interesting. So your go to market motion, tell us a little bit about how you're finding your prospects.
For sure. So it's interesting. Clearly, we dog food and use our own products,
Yep.
right? That is where the majority of our meetings come from, and we have to be our own best case study. So that is our core go-to-market motion. But I do have this background in content and content marketing and inbound marketing. So I do also. We have a marketing manager, and we will be investing pretty heavily into content marketing, inbound marketing, uh, things like events and LinkedIn, which I think complement the outbound side of things really, really nicely. So I'm looking for a balance. Ultimately, yeah, our own tool is the main source right now of those meetings.
Yeah, interesting. And now using your own tool, do you find things like, why did I do that? Or I need this, or there's a bug. So do you find a lot of things just using your own tool?
Yeah, it's so great using your own tool every day, right? I mean, you see all the flaws in it, but you see them before your clients will do, right? So you can mop up those bugs and improve the UX and so on. So yeah, it's really nice being able to just push the limits, right? We can
Yeah.
test and learn ahead of trying to do that with live clients, which is cool. And maybe just a quick aside on that.
Hmm.
One of the most delightful things of using our own tool here is when we engage a prospect and I get on the phone with them and they really didn't know this was in any way AI generated, right? And I'm taking them through the research and the insights I have on them and just watching their kind of eyes light up a little bit because they're like, oh my God, wow, you know all this about me and this, you didn't touch this at all. I'm like, no, I didn't. It was all AI generated. Like that's the best possible way to try and sell the solution is prove it. The meetings that I'm booking.
Yeah, that's awesome because your type of product, it was like, hey, I'm reaching you, talking to you now because of my product, and you can see the product right in front of you, and either you liked it, or maybe you didn't, or maybe we wouldn't talk if you didn't like it. So I love that, and great way to get some immediate feedback. So let's switch to the fundraising side. How much capital have you raised to date?
Sure. So we've raised it's £850,000, which I think is roughly $1 million.
Mhm.
And that was a pre-seed round that we completed just at the end of the summer.
Okay, in the summer. And when you started Revved Up, did you know was that the plan to raise some money, or did something happen in the journey over the past year and a half or so that said we need some capital?
We we were always pretty sure we'd need to raise some capital. It's a pretty competitive market, and we knew we would have to develop the product pretty rapidly, which involves a fair bit of investment into the engineering talent, right, and that side of things. What we didn't expect was raising quite such a large initial pre-seed round. I thought we'd probably do angel, family, friends, etc. Maybe do 250. But actually, when we got out to the market and we started speaking to investors, there was actually a lot of interest and appetite in what we were building. I think partly because of our backgrounds, partly because of our vision for where we want to take this. When we had the offer and the round was oversubscribed, we thought, well, it feels like the right thing to strike while the iron's hot, and we're able to now just move even faster than we originally anticipated.
In with that 850 pounds, where was the initial investment in your business? Or maybe a couple areas, but where did you first deploy that capital?
We immediately hired 4 engineers. We've got a fifth one joining. That has been pretty much where we've spent the majority of our money. We are slowly building our go to market, but again, without this being too much of a sales pitch, we can be really efficient there, right? Because we can set meetings using our own tool. I sell the product because I've got a sales background. So the two go to market hires we've invested in are marketing and customer success. I really passionately believe in looking after your clients, and often, even outside of technology, the experience you give to your clients is a differentiator. And I think too many software companies don't give enough value from that perspective. So actually, our very first hire was a customer success manager.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, that would be, yeah, usually you see customer success come in a little bit later, but it depends on the business model. And then for other founders who are starting their products, start bootstrap and thinking about that pre-seed round, any lessons learned in that process that you'd like to pass along?
Ooh, so yeah, I heard this a lot, which was bootstrap as long as you can, right? Unless it makes sense to raise capital. And so we were bootstrapped for the best part of the year. We did good raise. I think that was really valuable because we had very lean, shaped thinking about where you do want to invest, and you've got to be incredibly good at prioritizing certainly things around the roadmap and so on. But in terms of when you do decide to fundraise, if I heard the question correctly, like in terms of the advice, firstly, you've got to like sales and fundraising, although they're similar, they are fundamentally different disciplines, right? So you sell in a very different way to investors than you do to a potential client, and mixing those up doesn't make sense on either side. The worst thing to do is actually take the fundraising pitch, which is the big vision and the size of the market, and try and apply that to a client, and they just don't care, right? They just want to know what you're going to do to help them solve their problem today. So yeah, be really clear about what the sales process is, but do run it as a sales process, right? You have to speak to a lot of people. You have to be very diligent. You have to follow up. You're going to hear a lot of no's. Everyone's going to be interested, trying to discern that and not take it personally. They're second nature to someone that's been in sales for their career, but I can imagine if you've not, it's quite difficult to do that. So yeah, I would just say run it as a process. Make sure you know what you're selling and it's not necessarily your product, and have a really great story to tell.
Yeah, and that's a great reminder to reinforce is I've heard that a couple times is that selling like a slide deck for your prospect much different than that slide deck for a potential investor. And I'm guessing then your background leading commercial teams as a CRO, then was that kind of a natural fit going into the sales part of fundraising? Because like you said, you've heard probably have heard a lot of no's, a lot of objections over the years.
Yeah, I think it's got to have been somewhat of an advantage, right? Like I'm up for the good fight in terms of just running through those walls, having high energy, approaching every call fresh, telling the story that you you want to convey the right impact and message to investors. Yeah, all those things. I think it's stands you in good stead.
Yeah, seems like you'd have a little bit of leg up on the rest of us. So, Mark, at this stage of your business, so over a year in, raised 100, 850 pounds, generating some revenue. Do you have a favorite number or metric that you're focused on to guide the business?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and obviously I know you're big on metrics. So the the big lagging indicator is clearly ARR growth, and we're looking for that to accelerate and compound, but it is a lag indicator. So in terms of the best leading indicator on the go-to-market side that we look at is how many meetings that I'm sitting each week, right? That's a pretty good indication of capacity planning as well, right? Because there's very quickly getting to a point, in fact, I've hit it now, where I've got too many meetings to effectively sit. So we're hiring for sales to come in, right? So that was always our indicator of when do we need to expand the team. The correlating indicator that shows is that our tool's being more and more effective, right? Because we're using it, booking more meetings, and so on the product side, our sort of North Star is that we are getting, we want to be hitting a fight warm response rate for our clients when they are using our tool, which is an order of magnitude higher than you see. It's like 10x what most other like, comparable products might be achieving. Yeah. And I'm not saying we are there yet. We are way better than the alternatives, but that's our like where can we get to? Like if we get to this, we are doing everything right or almost everything right. So that's kind of our guiding star there.
I love that. So you're founder-led sales, you're hitting your capacity as a founder. Now that trigger point to hire a sales, maybe a sales team or some sales reps. And then so tell me a little bit more of the 5% warm response rate. So would that be the, you've got the email campaigns going out and then a positive reply to an email, not just like, hey, we're not interested, but someone who's says, hey, yeah, I'd like to learn more.
That's right. So it can be an interesting world of trying to build pipeline, right? There's lots of people in this market. And one of the tricks of the trade that we've seen is that people will talk about their response rates, but not their warm response rates. And it's crazy what includes those response rates, right? It's like do not contact, never darken my door again. And they're counting that as a response rate. So yeah, we're very explicit that it's got to be a warm response rate. And the general consensus when we did a bunch of market research is that it's actually gone right the way down to around 0.5% of a warm response rate. And even that's considered okay, which is crazy. So we're doing at least 1%, but often in our better campaigns, we're nudging up to 3%. And as I said, what we're looking to try and do is get that right the way back up to 5%.
Okay, so it sounds like, and I love, of course, I love ranges and benchmarks, but it sounds like 5% warm response rate is a great response rate that you're trying to get for your clients. But really, would you say like industry norms, averages? You're saying like if I could just get 1% warm response, that's, you know, doing as well as everybody else
Scale
at
at scale,
scale.
0.5% is broadly what people fall between 0.5% and 1%. So anything above 1%, you're of getting towards above average. And when you start to look at like a 2, 3%, you're getting your eyebrows raised because this is now very exciting. There are obviously examples where people will run extremely specific campaigns to like 80 people and they will get a 30% response rate, right? But that's not scalable typically.
Yeah, and that's a great point. If I researched 80 LinkedIn profiles and said that was my ICP, maybe I'll do better. But of course, that's going to take a ton of time. But you're saying that was a good point. At scale, maybe that half point is good, but above 1% is really good. So yeah, appreciate that. And 5% sounds fantastic.
Yeah, that's where we should be there. I'm hoping by early to mid next year. Like that's our ambition to get there.
Yeah, we'll have to check in at that time. So
Yeah.
Mark, really appreciate your time today and sharing your journey. So what's coming up next for Revved Up?
Well, we are growing our sales team because we've now hit capacity or my capacity. We'll continue to invest in the engineering and product side of things. And yeah, really we're trying to do the do the small things right. Like just focus, invest in product, invest in people, and build good process. And if you do that, you build a strong business will scale over time. Yeah, I think that's like the key. We just want to put one foot in front of the other, but do it pretty quickly. We are a
Yeah,
startup, so we execute with speed.
want to keep moving fast. So appreciate your time today. So if listeners would like to learn more about Revved Up, where should we send them online?
Sure. So I've got a slightly unusual LinkedIn profile, which is JFDI Mark, which stands for, I don't know if you're allowed to swear on this show. Sorry. It's just effing do it, Mark, which is something that I've had over a decade and clearly indicates my psychological profile, which is get stuff done quickly. So my LinkedIn is JFDI Mark, but if you search for Mark Walker Revved Up, that will come up. And by all means, shoot me an email. I still believe in the power of email, even if it's been misused a little bit today by some practitioners. So I'm Mark at revvedup.ai.
Perfect. And let's just make sure we get that spelling right. So it's REVVEDUP.ai, correct?
Perfect.
Okay. So check out that domain or just email Mark directly at mark@revvedup.ai. And Mark, appreciate your time and sharing your journey.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Mark.